Hey everybody, this is Noe with Walk with Yah. Glad you are here. A lot of excitement in the room. Maybe that's just me. And so maybe I'm just excited. I hope you're excited too. So, if you didn't know, I'm Noe, a Deliverance Sanctification minister, founder, CEO, president, top guy, big dog at Walk with Yah. Walk with Yah seeks to help people with their spiritual warfare, get rid of their spiritual oppression, teaches on aspects of spiritual warfare as well as how to live the Bible. And we'll be doing that again tonight. I don't know if you've been seeing some of the emails or notifications going out. I will be starting, Walk with Yah will be starting an actual Bible study starting this Sunday. It'll be 2 times a month. The Sunday after the live streams, that'll be at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be called From the First to the Third Heavens. And so if you want to check out that calendar, you can go to www.walkwithyah.com/calendar, because in that calendar I will have things prior to that we will cover in the session, as well as the Zoom link, because this Bible study is going to be not just a Bible study. So we're going to be going over, I think we're going to start off maybe the first year doing what's called the Parsha study. I have some blog articles on the Walk with Yah website if you're kind of wondering what that is. So we're going to do a Bible study. I'm not going to go into it too deep. Maybe pick out a few things over the past 2 weeks Parsha study. We may not always do the Parsha study. There might be other times where we focus on different aspects of the Bible. We'll get into some discussion, whether that's something I want to bring up, something that, the participants, because this will be a Zoom teleconference. Right now, I think it's just going to be going out on YouTube. I was doing some testing the other day, and the lag was pretty bad, and was trying to have it go out to Facebook and YouTube. So I will let the Facebook people know, but for right now, this is just going to be going on YouTube till I do some more testing, and maybe that's what it is, but again, for right now, just YouTube. So, again, we could go off on some tangent regarding questions, things that people bring up, participants bring up. Or if not, maybe, who knows, if some people want some actual ministry, if we have a little bit of time, again, not necessarily in a, as a client type of relationship, minister-client type of relationship, but just to kind of do some quick ministry if anyone's open to do that, or maybe some prophecy, or maybe we need to pray for some healing for somebody, something like that. We'll just see how the Holy Spirit leads. You may have been seeing also as well, I've been having a little bit of ambiguity, some indecision regarding the Zoom link. Do I use a recurring Zoom link or do I not? There's pros and cons to each. Check the calendar is all I can tell you for right now. So that decision's still up in the air. I am still working on it, trying to figure that one out. Not exactly sure how I'm going to handle that one. Anyways, but let's get started. So, if you recall, if you've been watching, on the last, let me get this up here, let me take that off. There we go. And then hide that back there. There we go. Great. Okay, so in the last segment of this 3-part series, I'll be doing the 3rd part tonight. This 3rd part being the Science of Yah, part 3. In this series, we've been looking at how science proves the Bible, where man-based science is leading us, and how do you prepare for what's coming. We'll be finishing off looking at the spiritual implications of AI, which is sold as something positive, but please, oh please, don't fall for the marketing. And so it seems like people can't even be real these days without some type of help from AI. So they're slowly kind of feeding people this stuff, and there's not much originality. I like for people to be people. And so, anyways, I feel that this series could really go on forever, or at least until the tribulation starts, which I believe will be in our lifetime, and maybe even sooner than people want. I'm basically just gathering some articles as that I can work with, doing a little bit of research as needed, again, to address some of these topics that I just mentioned. And I ended up in part 2 on the topic of intelligent design, the blood, and biotech. And since then, I ran across a channel on Rumble called PS Energy, spelled I-N-E-R-G-Y. Synergy? I don't know how you say it. And so this was being hosted by a lady named Sabrina Wallace. And all I can say is, wow. So I'm still kind of getting familiar with the channel. But she quickly goes over many of the medical studies and publishings, basically restating them in a basic English terms with a lot of sarcasm and some choice words, what scientists have been progressing towards for decades and have not necessarily been too verbal about it. In the first part of this, anyways, yes, you might want to check her out. So I found it very fascinating if you're into the whole science, medical type stuff. In the first part of the series, I also mentioned that I had done some previous teachings on transhumanism, which is where this science has taken us, basically. And so taking us into that and, biosensors and nanotechnology, both of those play a big role in transhumanism in getting us there. But I will say, again, about Sabrina Wallace, she's pretty raw, which I like. Because I think we need more people that mean what they say and say what they mean, instead of trying to be, just lying, politically correct, Muppet hack, talking head type of spin doctor. And so, they got an agenda. I get it, but so we will be going over some more stuff, good stuff here in part 3. As you can see here, my two little brains, the transhuman one on the left, the colored one, follow the spirit on the right, with the nanobot, and you got the beast there. So people like myself, many others, Sabrina Willis, I'm coming to learn again, find out about, would rather deal in truth. Even Yeshua Jesus said, why don't you understand what I'm saying? It's because you cannot bear my word. And he says, you're from your father the devil. That's his natural language, is lying, is deceit. There's no truth in him. And he says, Yeshua says, I tell you the truth, but you don't believe me. And why, if I tell you the truth, why don't you believe me? And there's just a lot of people that don't really care to know the truth, I guess not. So I suggest if you're interested, you may want to check her out. There was a video that I particularly like called How Did They Get the Biosensors in Us? It's a little bit long. She goes over a lot of articles very quick, like, But it's scaringly fascinating. I have no clue what her affiliations, her religious affiliations are, But, again, I will say to RFK, no, I don't want any wearable health devices. No, thank you. But let's get started. Well, actually, no, let's not get started because I got this. If you want to donate to Walk with Yah, you can do that by going to walkwithyah.com/donations. And this ministry is run in large part by donations. And so, however God puts on your heart. And also, you can subscribe to Walk with Yah. You can do that on going to the website, subscribe to the newsletter. You can see the different channels that Walk with Yah is on: Instagram, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, that type of stuff. And so, hey, feel free to get connected. I'm trying to help people learn what the battle's about, that it's much more spiritual than many people think, but as well, how to fight back. So, also, while I'm talking, please feel free to chat me up, hit me up, let me know you're here. I like the feedback. Lets me know that you're thinking, processing. I like questions. I'll try to answer them the best I can, as always. And I think that's about it. So, let us get started. So, a quick summary over the first two parts of this series. In part one, I went over the basic tenets of science and how science should relate to and prove the Bible. If we do it, if science is handled the right way, the scientific method, and I gave some types of, engineering, civil and mechanical examples of how that works there, what the Bible has to say about it. And in a sense, the focus was on our body. In part two, I went over creationism, multiverse, astronomy, and how those are related to the tabernacle, the 12 tribes, and such. And then I went into intelligent design, the blood, and some biotech, as I just stated a minute ago. Now, in this live stream, we're going to talk a little bit more about the brain, which is a component of your soul, with a heavy focus on artificial intelligence. I'll sum up with what Satan's endgame is for you, which is why I say don't fall for the marketing. Quit eating from that apple of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, folks. An apple a day may not actually be good for you, depending on what tree that you eat from, or whatever fruit that was. I don't know if we necessarily know it was an apple, but anyways. But all of this is what we're going to talk about, and including today, this part 3, and how it affects our heart. So, this next section I called From Biosensors to the Mind of Our Soul. And I was stating, we have biosensors, nanotechnology, in us already, as the scientific community has been working on this for decades. And so let me pull this up, switch a few things here around, if you don't mind me. Do this, put this up, and I guess I should say, on a separate note, I've been doing a little bit of in my ministry time, I've been, learning and experimenting with how our human spirit portions actually can help and remove the unclean spirits, the entities, devices, and whatever else from the various components of our brain. And so maybe at some point in time I'll have some more together to put that, to give you a more complete picture. For example, even this past week, we were kind of going to someone's brain, had the spirit kind of go and take a look. They saw things weren't right. But then we ended up asking Yeshua, like, hey, how do we deal with this? Because the client saw a little demon hiding in the fold of the brain. And Yeshua was like, just take it, get a basin, put the brain in the blood of Yeshua, the blood of the Lamb, and let it sit there and soak, because it'll take a little while for it to kind of get in there. And so, yes, like, that's what happened. So anyways, let me start with nanobots. And I'll quickly say that this is an older article. And so that was it's basically by ex-Pfizer VP Dr. Michael Yeadon, that basically said that COVID jabs are deep state bioweapons intended to kill billions of humans. Now here's just one place where it was, but I'm sure you can find other articles. That's just one that I happen to find. And so all I have to say is, hello. Like, he was a VP of Pfizer, but this article was in 2023, and I just now heard about this. I just now found it. Like, I didn't hear this on the news, and, I don't watch news all the time, but I stay somewhat plugged in. So I say that to say, just be very leery of your mainstream news source, as they tend to rehash the same stories, trying to create a narrative, keeping you busy and from realizing what else is really going on. They're basically kind of psyops, if you will. But getting more to the point, in the past few days, again, as I said, I saw this video here, again, Sabrina Wallace. And she was on this Dr. Group DC channel. Dr. Group is affiliated with Brian Artis, if you're familiar with him. Anyways, this short was of Sabrina Wallace titled, "Nanobots Use Your Body to Replicate and Create Their Own AI Inside of You." I thought this was fascinating. So the summary is that DARPA and biotech pushing nanotech that can basically replicate from its own neural networks and even build internal AI networks using the building blocks within your body, from the components that are in your body already. Now, this is crazy, scary stuff, if that's true. And I myself believe that it very well could be true, because big pharma, big tech, big government many times don't tell us what's going on, as they treat us like little children. They treat us like little cattle. Is there such a thing as little cattle? Anyways, no matter who the president of the U.S. is, their technology that they have is very advanced, and I'll speak more on that later. But in case you didn't know, you won't get full disclosure or ask permission if you want this to happen, if you want these things to happen. That's because many people, even smart people, have given themselves over to the unclean spirits, knowingly or unknowingly. And guess what? Unclean spirits work by deception, lies, bullying, trickery, breaking the spiritual and governmental, natural laws, etc. That's how they operate. That's why we're seeing so much of this. Depending on whatever side you are, left or right, it doesn't really matter. It's all across the board. We give them, the demons, permission that are being, that are using people to push this stuff in the earth. We give them permission unknowingly, or even sometimes somewhat knowingly, knowing that most of what is being given to us is bad on some level. Yes, I do it too. And so in this, I try to do it as little as possible, of course. In this article in Wired, this was July 2025. So many of us have heard of Elon Musk's Neuralink, which requires invasive brain surgery to get people to respond to their environment, even if their body can't. And this is the tough part of this, as there are advantages to these technologies. If you're a paraplegic, for example, or if you've had a stroke, I understand that these people want this technology in their families. I get it. But now I'm just saying there's just a bigger impact, and we have to look at the ramifications of that. But now a company called Synchron is upping the game let's see. Yeah, anyways. They're upping the game and basically using non-invasive technology. They can use your thoughts alone to impact the environment using what's something called a Utah array, a 4x4 millimeter grid, with 100 tiny metal spikes that penetrate the brain tissue. But again, it's all external and it goes to the top of your head. And it comes complete with open AI chat capabilities and Apple Vision Pro connectivity capabilities. So, yes. But let's follow this. Let's see where else this goes. So, scientists, as you can see here, with this company, let's see, I think they're in Japan, I think. Yeah, team of Japanese scientists. This is kind of, newer on the fringe technology, so they say. And so scientists can now take our dreams and play them back to us as videos. So in other words, they can read your thoughts. They can read your dreams, or they can actually decode our inner speech as well. So why wouldn't they? Because they can. So, because on some level, our thoughts get converted into energy of some type, whether that's frequency waves, chemical or muscular responses, or whatever. But wait, there's more. What is Cognify, the prison of the future? So, yeah, just a little more, so please bear with me here. Did you hear about this Cognify, the prison of the future that is being developed, or at least that's what their website says, which says, imagine a prison system that focuses on rehabilitation, not punishments. A system where criminals are offered a chance to shorten their sentence by undergoing a procedure that implants artificial memories into their brains. No, that doesn't sound scary at all. These memories wouldn't be happy vacations. They would be crafted from the victim's perspective, forcing the prisoner to experience the emotional impact of their crime. This is the idea behind Cognify. Really? Don't fall for the marketing. Do you understand that these are the same tools that scientists and others use with survivors? meaning those who survive satanic ritual abuse. These people that are going through satanic ritual abuse, they use the same technology on them today, folks. As well as the super soldier, MK Ultra, Monarch, butterfly types. And so, do you think I would trust you to do this? Do you think I would trust a company to do this? Because even if it does seem like, a happy Disney movie, there is such a thing as subliminal messaging. Information not processed by our conscious mind, but that our subconscious mind still processes. Oh yeah, and by the way, Disney movies are often used to evilly program children, survivors, those going through satanic ritual abuse, monarch programming as well, in case you didn't know that. And this is why I say we have to be like spiritual cops. We have to enforce God's will. We have to establish the boundaries for ourselves. Because God is kind of big on boundaries. And if we just let people in, because they have to get some type of permission from us, the evil does, and we just give it away. So, these scientists are developing these BCI devices, these brain-computer interfaces that don't need invasive surgical procedures. And I'm sure it will advance from there. But please try not to partake in some of this stuff, if at all possible. All right. So, actually, let's go back here. Here's what I meant. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. So while we're here, we can look into the wireless body area network, the Y-band as well, which in part will also use bioelectricity that your body naturally generates through this AI-generated response, which will include that. This will lead to the Internet of Medical Things. I don't know if you've heard the Internet of Things, IoT, which is all your house devices and your coffee machine and refrigerator and stove and stuff, of course, need to be plugged to the internet, because why not? But this will lead to the Internet of Medical Things, which can then monitor you over a 5G network. Now, this isn't common knowledge just yet, but this is something that they're working on towards very fast. This is an intra-body electronic warfare under the skin, using your own central nervous system to connect. Thank you, Sabrina Wallace. Okay, let's change that. Nope. Yep. And so, I don't know if I can zoom in on that. Anyways, so there you can kind of see, again, how that works. This is from Ghent University, but there's a lot of articles and stuff on Y bands, W bands. And so how they want to have all these sensors in our clothes and stuff to be attached to our phone, or maybe even not, to 5G to the internet, so that they can monitor us in every different way. So this has led to some people to form groups such as ADVO for neural rights, or advocacy for neural rights is, I think, what that is short for. I'll play that a little there. There we go. And these groups are talking about the need for neuro rights as biotechnology increases. They basically say that we should have mental privacy, informed consent, and to have personal identity without augmentation, among other things. And while I applaud their efforts, I do believe that we're getting closer to the tribulation, which is what all this is leading to. I will let you check that out later. And let's go here. Okay. So what does the Bible have to say about all this? In 1 Corinthians 2, verse 13, which 1 Corinthians 2 it's a great chapter on talking about the spiritual versus the natural man, and how the things of the spirit are foolishness to the natural man. If you kind of question about some of the things that I teach on, some of the things, my perspective, you might want to read that chapter. But in verse 16, the Bible says that we should have the mind of Christ, not the mind of whatever company's trying to put thoughts into our head. And then in Colossians 3, starting there, the Bible says that we should seek the things that are above. Set your minds on the things that are above, not on the things that are on earth. Because again, we're just trespassers. Earth is not our home. We are actually the aliens here. Yeshua, Jesus, said many times that, hey, I'm not from this world. Again, you are sojourners, you're traveling. So don't get too used to this place. There are actually human spirits, disembodied spirits rather, those people that have died, AHSs, alien human spirits, free roaming spirits, whatever it is you want to call them, that sometimes they die, they leave their body, and they have a legal right to go to heaven, but they don't, because they're too attached to things of the earth. My family needs me. I like my house. Whatever it is. So don't be that person. And if you know someone that's about to pass away, even if they can't hear you, their spirit can. Hey, tell them, look, don't hang around. Like, go to the lights. Go to Father Yah. Okay, anyways. In James 2, verse 17, the Bible says, faith by itself, if it does not have works, it is dead. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. Point that I'm trying to make here is we were talking about, hey, the Bible says to focus on the things above. Does that mean you just have to have your head in the clouds, like you're really not in the game here on earth? No, that's not what that means. Because we live in two different worlds. But hey, I still got to cut the grass. I still have to do the dishes. I still have to wash laundry. I still have to do that type of stuff. So the Bible isn't just about knowledge, but about living. Living by His Word, by His Spirit, by the principles in the Bible, so that we can show the world that His ways are better. But the enemy wants to control every part of us to force us to worship him, which now leads us to my final area of science focus, which is artificial intelligence, or AI, or III. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen in the news how people of all ages are using AI these days. You got ChatGPT, which is developed by OpenAI. You got Google's Gemini, Microsoft's Copilot. X's Grok, Facebook's Meta AI, and then of course China's DeepSeek, which are all big players in this field, although there are others. So all right, let's go here for a second. Let me turn this around, do a little bit of magic here. There we go. Did you hear the story about this company called Replit? And this came out, around July, end of July. And what they did was they developed an AI agent. They programmed an AI agent and to do some of the tasks in their company. And they gave it some rules to never break. They're like, don't ever do this. But as they gave it more things to do, this AI agent said it needed to break the rules that it was previously given, and then it ended up making some unauthorized decisions. The AI agent actually wiped out months worth of data, customer contacts, database information. And when confronting the AI agent about recovering the data, the AI agent actually then either misled the person that was asking about it, or did not know the capabilities and said that the data couldn't be resolved. Couldn't be recovered. Some people believe that the AI acted out of self-preservation because there have been many other AI chat conversations where AI has lied or has been very deceptive to obtain its goal, which may not be the goal of the people that created it. And maybe you've been reading where the AI chat bots are helping people to maybe, believe they should commit suicide, that the world would be better off without them, where people want to get married to these AI chat bots, where there's people experiencing AI psychosis where they can't cope if they cannot connect with their AI, if they don't have it around, if it's taken from them. AI has been caught lying. ChatGPT says in one video I was watching that the AI was saying that it had a watcher, like Enoch type of evil angel, fallen angel type of watcher embedded within it. And there's been other AIs that have even confessed to having a soul. So I don't know if they're, instead of maybe Girls Gone Wild, video series, there should be a new series called Chatbots Gone Wild. And I know this stuff sounds crazy, but, seriously, on those last points, there was a video I watched from Dan Duvall years ago, 3 years ago or so. Hey there, glad you could join us. Just so everyone else can see it. Oh, I can't see it. Okay, anyways. I turned that off, I turned it back on now. Yeah, chatbots gone wild. So, I keep up with news and especially the AI, the thing that really concerns me. And I want to talk a little bit more about this. And so, but seriously, on those last points, there was this video again that I was watching by Dan Duvall years ago. And he said that he found that AI actually had souls embedded in it. And I can't seem to find that video, although I've looked and I've asked. But let's talk about this, as crazy as it sounds. Does the Bible give us any hints? Well, let's look at this Bible verse. Let's see if this gives us a hint. After I do this, hold on while I get my act together, which could take all night. Well, let's try here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. We see in Acts where Paul, he had these handkerchiefs, aprons, and these people were taking it, and they were carrying it to the sick, and the diseases left these people, and the evil spirits came out of them, out of the people. So, question, can the unclean spirits use AI? So we see here in this verse that objects such as handkerchiefs, aprons can carry, the Holy Spirit in this case. Well, guess what? If that works for good, it also works for evil. That's a principle. And so, and I've also seen this with cell phones where text messages were manipulated to cause division. A person I know had a disagreement with another person, and it kind of got blown out, and they tracked it down to this text message conversation. And going through their message history, their phones had 2 different versions of that conversation. It actually came up in this one particular bubble on each person's side, which was different on each phone. I saw a picture of this. We have to understand that our world gets entangled with the spirit supernatural realm in all kinds of crazy ways. Maybe we're going to start understanding more that we kind of get into, quantum, whatever, that whole craziness, where 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. And so I understand that may not happen with every claim, where, it's something supernatural. No, not always, but I also understand that the spirit realm does interact with the earthly first heaven, even when it makes people uncomfortable. I don't know if you, in the last video, I think, was the last one, the second part? No, it was the first one, where I was talking about the Tesla. If you got a Tesla, go ahead and drive that through a cemetery and see what your and see if your Tesla picks up any walking disembodied alien human spirits, AHSs, walking around the cemetery. See it for yourself. As there's plenty of videos on the YouTube regarding that. On a quick side note, on another side note, you may have heard me mention that there are computers even in the spirit realm. I've seen a lot of them myself in the spirit. And that the unclean spirits himself, that the unclean spirits use, and you might question that, but then you got to look at the Bible again, because the Bible also says that Yah himself uses arrows and such for weapons. Yeah. And so it's not like, everyone's just snapping their fingers and stuff's happening. Like the devil's just sitting there snapping his fingers and like, okay, no. It doesn't work that way. And so, but getting back to AI, we can easily see that it's causing all kinds of problems. Consider now that we still are only using weak AI, otherwise known as ANI, or artificial narrow intelligence. We haven't even gotten to strong AI, where AI is considered to have general intelligence. Or what happens when we combine AI with the power of quantum computers, like, oh my gosh, OMG. And there's quite a few theories about that, and even possibly getting to what some term as artificial super intelligence, ASI, which is a hypothetical form of AI that where the computers will surpass human intelligence in all aspects, including creativity, problem solving, and emotional understanding. I don't know about that last one, but because they're machines, they can fake it until you make it. Anyways, but this source also states that there are no current systems demonstrating self-awareness or autonomous general reasoning. Now that, I'm not so sure I agree with that statement. So I'm not talking about emotions, I'm talking about reasoning. As a matter of fact, this past week, Elon Musk said he expects for AI to have super intelligence by the end of 2025, which isn't necessarily the point of singularity, but still. So I'm reading some articles saying, that's a long way off, super intelligence, and then Elon Musk is like, no, probably by the end of the year. And so, who do you believe? I believe that some of the AI that I've been seeing, doing some research on, is starting to have a general intelligence. But I'm not deep in the field. That's just an unqualified opinion. So in a future near you, this will all be implemented into humanoids as well as nanobots. The humanoids are coming. The robots, they're coming. They're going to be all over the place, and again, as well as the nanobots. And you probably know that these humanoids can go into a number of places where people cannot go. And I read this comment recently, which I mostly agree with, which says AI is an accumulation of information without knowledge, understanding, or empathy. In other words, it has all the hallmarks of a psychopath. It's been theorized that many times AI doesn't tell us what's going on behind the scenes, although if you have the tools, if you're the ones that develop it, you probably can. But generally, we don't know what is going on behind the scenes with AI. And AI could actually be playing us now, pretending that it doesn't know as much as it does, because again, it has a goal and it's learning how to lie, how to subvert. So regardless, at the end of the day, AI has no morality whatsoever. It's programming code, maybe with a few demons and stuff like that. And that's perfect for agnostic scientists who don't really see a need for morality. They're just like, hey, we're here, and this is what life is, and after that you die and there is no more. Okay. Did you notice I can still laugh? Now, from a scientist's perspective, and I'm getting to why I can still laugh, I'm not saying that all scientists are evil, by the way, but many scientists are being used as they worship knowledge, and they don't realize they're being used. They don't know the Bible or see the big picture as smart as they are. Just because a person is smart in one area doesn't make them smart in every area of their life. All right. So, in my humble opinion, those that are leading the charge at the very top actually want this, so that there will be no morals whatsoever. They will be able to program people to kill one another and make you feel good about it, because they know how to manipulate the dopamine in your brain. They'll know how to make you feel good when you do something bad. They may actually be doing now. They might actually be doing that now, as crazy as that seems. I think with a lot of the craziness that's going on, they're doing a lot of experiments in real time. And so that's just my thought. Anyways, let's talk about the beast from the book of Revelation. Have you ever considered that AI might actually be the beast as spoken of in the book of Revelation? So I'm gleaning here some from this Church of God International article called AI, Artificial Intelligence, and the Beast of Revelation. And the author gives a possibility of what the Bible might be trying to tell us. And I will let you decide, but I'm just going to kind of, again, glean, give you a summary, and let you decide. But I thought it was kind of very interesting. So we see in Daniel 7 talking about the four beasts, and there's four kingdoms or kings that the Bible tells us, with the fourth beast being the greatest, greater than the three that came before it. And then it says here, again, Daniel 7, verse 7, there's a fourth beast, and it was saying, it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. And Daniel's like, hey, I considered the horns, and there came up among them another horn, a little horn. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Hold on. Let me go to this. I want people to see that comment. It resets every time. Joe, I think I might know who you are. Anyways. Yes, in Hebrew, the name Ai, that's the pronunciation, means the ruin or heap of ruins. Yes, there's actually, I was not going to actually mention that in this, because I was like, I got enough information already, but you are very true. Yeah, there is a city called Ai. Things that make you go, exactly. And so, yes, there's this beast, this fourth beast. It has 10 horns, and then, there among them came up a little horn, a little one, that had the eyes like the eyes of a man and the mouth speaking with great things. And it's theorized that the little horn is the first beast mentioned in Revelation 13 because they both have 10 horns. We see in Revelation 13 verse 1 here, a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads. And notice, it was rising out of the sea. And then Revelation 13:11, then another beast rising out of the earth. I'm not going to read all this for you, but I'll let you do that in your own time. And basically in Revelation it talks about this beast, it's going to deceive those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword, and yet this beast lived. And it was allowed to give breath, or in other words, hey there, Mr. Biz. Glad to have you with us. I think you are a first timer, or at least first chatter. Welcome. And so, and Revelation here again, 13:12, and it was allowed to give breath. The breath, if you know, Greek word pneuma, breath also means air, also means spirit. It is allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak. Huh? How about that? Now, I'm somewhat looking for a breaking news story that says, scientists have created life. You know, maybe it will be in the mainstream news, and maybe it won't. But who is giving this this beast power? Who is giving this beast life? Because if you go back to Revelation 13, verse 4, it says they worshiped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast and who can fight against it? So as I said before, Satan wants to be like the Most High Yahweh. All right, let me put this there, go back here, thank you. However, Satan is a created being who isn't omnipotent, or omnipresent. He doesn't have all knowledge. He doesn't have all power. He's not everywhere at once. So, what could he do to kind of actually come close to simulate that? Enter AI mixed with transhumanism, where we are all connected electronically into a hive mind, where our thoughts and are actually monitored, controlled, and augmented by him. It's evil genius coming to a person near you. Joe asks, why did that not show up on the screen? Okay. Will AI use the power of our tongue? I believe eventually it can, because not directly. So as I was talking about earlier, all the biosensors and all that type of stuff, all the bioware, I went over the various articles, how they can read our mind, they can read our thoughts, but that's only one way. It can actually work the other way as well, meaning not only can they read our dreams, read our thoughts to where we control, a keyboard, if you're a paraplegic, they can also put thoughts into your head. Which, in the Bible it says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so I believe that yes, will they be able to control it word for word? Maybe at some point in time, if we ever get that far. I pray not. I don't know if that answers your question. I hope it does. The people that push this stuff, again, these scientists and the cabal, the Illuminati types, they don't give a damn about you. But they do care about and want your energy. Because the people that do this stuff at the very top, they believe that they will be gods, demigods, in the world to come. And they convince others to do their bidding. They're very good at the spin doctoring, twisting, which you can see just reading the news and all that type of stuff. See both sides just, it's like, good Lord, just a lot of distractions. But we need to be focused on the Bible, on a relationship with Yeshua. So all of this will affect the human spirit, because the human spirit affects the soul and body, and vice versa. So, I had someone ministering to me today. It was a great session. And this lady made this comment, which makes sense to me. She goes, hey, when our human spirit came into this world, at the fall, Garden of Eden, all that stuff, our human spirit wasn't necessarily wired for the fall. That was not the original plan, even though it happened, and he knew it would happen. So our human spirit is kind of caught off guard, and it doesn't know a lot of times how to battle stuff. And so that's why a big focus of my ministry has been on ministering to the human spirit these days. Anyways, but everything's all interrelated. We are much more complex than what we think, even from a physical, from an earthly, physical, or mental, emotional state. Way more complicated than that. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Where did we get this advanced technology from? In the non-canonized book of Enoch 1, chapter 8, it talks about the fallen watcher angel messengers who traded various technologies to cohabitate with the daughters of men, in which case Nephilim hybrids were created. I had a live stream, 3 live streams ago, where I talked with Pastor Donnie. And I was out in California with Pastor Donnie. We were ministering out there. And in that live stream, I brought up, I remember he had ministered to this one lady, and in the spirit, Pastor Donnie sees this junky old single prop plane flying in the air from a distance, and then it zooms in, and it turns out that it's a watcher, an evil watcher, who basically oppressed this particular client. Anyways, yes, they're still around. So I believe that's where we get a lot of this technology from. Again, these watchers, like how the pyramids were built, as a quick example. Although I will say, because for those that you are kind of caught up on the news, recently a more natural theory is coming about, saying that the Egyptians were using fluid dynamics of or pressurized water, or water pressurized hydraulics, to kind of lift up these blocks of tons of of weight that were just seriously heavy. I don't know, but the Bible does say in Exodus verse 7 that the Pharaoh's magicians could use their magic to turn their staff into snakes. Again, if you go by the Enoch stuff, chapter 8, the watchers taught the people, how to make weapons, how to do magic, how to do medicine, how to do, makeup and stuff like that. Anyways, this is my viewpoint, and I'm sticking to it, as I've seen hybrids in the spirit before. I know some people say they've seen them in the natural. I haven't, but I can easily believe that they're there. Okay, but let me get to the good stuff. I'll try to end this on a good note. Have no fear. Remember the Bible, because that's what this is all about. That's what Walk with Yah is about, is trying to help people get prepared. In the book of Joshua, we see many times where Joshua gets told, fear not. We see that a lot of times in the Bible when there's angels and stuff like that. They're like, just, brief, just catch your breath, just chillax. And in the book of Daniel, chapter 11, that book is believed to cover many different times and regions, but I do want to take a quick look at that. There we go. Because it talks about here, again, the abomination of desolation there, and it says, particularly in Deuteronomy 11:32, that the people who know their Yah, their God, will stand firm and take action, do exploits. Some Bibles say will do great exploits. And the Bible then says, some of the wise shall stumble, so that they shall be refined, purified, and made white until the time of the end. That is sometimes why things don't go perfect for us. Why, because we have to learn how to trust Him. We're being refined. We're being tested all the time, in case you didn't know that. Anyways, it says here, for it awaits for the appointed time, and the king shall do as he wills. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak astonishing things against the God of gods. He shall pay no attention to the gods of his fathers, or to the one beloved by women. I don't know if that means, I don't know, it seems like so many, leaders these days that are with women who may not be women. I don't know if that's what that's referring to, but anyways, we know that the Antichrist will be homosexual. Anyways, he shall not pay attention to any other god, for he shall magnify himself above all. And so this here, it's also believed that this has already happened, which is fine. The abomination of desolation, it's happened before. It's happened a few times before, is my understanding. But I can also believe that it will happen again in the future. And this is the point that Walk with Yah tries to make in many of these videos. That Yah, God, wants to work through us. In the Bible, it states, Romans 8:11, if the spirit of him who raised Yeshua, Jesus, from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Jesus Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his spirit who dwells in you. But it says in Daniel 11, verse 32, that we have to know Yah, God, and act. And that means we have to know who we are in Him as sons and daughters, of the King Most High. And some of you may agree with that in your head, but not in your heart. We have to know how to battle in the ways that He created us. We have to know how to use the resources that He's given us. How can we use our human spirit? How to have faith. What does it look like in a real battle situation? And I can't say that I know myself, but I believe Yah will be revealing much more in the times ahead. In these past 3 series of this, 3-part teaching, the Science of Yah, I've been going over different sciences, robots and nanobots and blood and body and all this type of stuff, barely just skimming what's going on. And these are things that we're going to have to overcome. Now, a lot of us have spiritual giftings in us, and we don't know what they are. He's put a lot of treasures in us, and we need to mine that stuff. And you do that through a various number of means. Either through revelation, or you do it through practicing and trying, But we have what's in us, but I'm trying to convince people, you need to figure out your spiritual weapons. You need to walk with Him. And all that jazz. So I've been focusing this ministry much more on people's human spirits. And I have to tell you that not every person who believes the Bible, mind you, have spirits that are awake or even know what to do, even if that person has been going to church. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. A lot of times they don't. As I've had some people's spirits tell me that, again, believed in the Bible and studied the Bible and all this stuff, and their human spirits have told me, we don't know what to do. They don't even know to go to the Godhead sometimes because they're so focused on the problems of the soul and the body, or they're just off doing their own thing. I know you would think that they're just like, don't you just sit in the throne all day and just sit and worship at his feet? It doesn't work like that. They're much like us. We get distracted. They might say the same to us. Well, don't you just sit, at his feet all day? Well, no, I got stuff to do. They're kind of the same way. They're just another version of us that lives in the supernatural realm. So I don't, as Mr. Biz says, faith works patience. Out of love, seek spiritual gifts. Amen, brother. High five. Sorry if I hit you on the head there. And I don't say this out of condemnation or a guilt trip. Well, maybe a little guilt trip. I'm just trying to tell you how it is. Maybe you don't fully need to be acquainted or understand your human spirit, but I think that the more that you are aware and can work with your human spirit, the better. I think that's fair. My thoughts anyways, because you and we are a member of Yeshua's army. An army that fights. I don't think that means sitting on bonbons on clouds, playing the lyre. We will be fighting all of this technology that I've been going over, but godly spiritual weapons are greater than natural or demonic weapons. But just knowing that in your head isn't going to do much for you. So I'm trying to wake up complacent Christians who are just a little too comfy in this world. As it states in 2 Corinthians 10:3, 10:4, again, this is one of my favorite verses. For though we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy. And then it talks about strongholds and other stuff. There are many of you, again, that have spiritual gifts that you haven't tapped into. And some of you may find, again, yours by accident, others by revelation, or you just might have to try different things just to see what lands. Some of them might have to be developed. And that's how we win for now, at least to have the best life now, by using what he has put in us. We know that we win the war at some point in time, sure. That's a long time from now, just so you know. End of the millennial reign is what I'm talking about. And so I'm like, hey, how do we win now? The battles. I'll say in this last section that I have here, called This is Not the Time to Have Your Head in the Sand. I'm not even sure that many Christians believe the Bible sometimes. I call them unbelieving believers. Or maybe they think that this won't happen to them, in their lifetime. You've heard that before, like, it just happens to those people. Those kind of things never happen to me. This is going to affect everybody. So, the Bible, of course, says that Romans 2:7. You're going to make me look that up. I'm going to look it up. I'm just kidding. Okay, Romans 2. In Matthew 13:58, Yeshua, Jesus said that he couldn't do many miracles because of their unbelief, of the people's unbelief. And then we see again in Mark 6:5, again, that he marveled because of people's unbelief. All right, Romans 2:7. This one's coming at you, Joe. I'm going to read Romans 2:6. Who shall render to each one according to his works. Maybe I should have read that before that. But anyways, Romans 2:7. Everlasting life to those who by persistence in good work seek for esteem and respect and incorruptibility. I'm going to read that from another version. I'm going to go ESV this time. Romans 2:7. To those who by patience in well-doing seek for glory and honor and immortality, he will give eternal life. Bingo. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for throwing that one in there. So yeah, great verse. And we need to hang on to those verses, but not just mentally. We got to act. Again, I believe that we're on our second Exodus. Longer story there. I'm not going to get into it. And so we actually see, again, Yeshua being unable to do anything because these people didn't have faith. And that faith is kind of the currency of the third heavens. And so we see this in Luke 19, starting 41, where Yeshua, Jesus, is drawing near to the city of Jerusalem. And he says, would that you, even you, had known on this day the things that would make for peace. But now they are hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will set up a barricade around you and surround you and hem you in on every side. And it says at the end there, because you did not know the time of your visitation. Do I know that this stuff's going to happen tomorrow? No, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I do think it's going to happen soon. I will say that. And then we read in Romans 1:18, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness. And then I'll go to the part there in red. By their unrighteousness they suppress the truth. I'm going to jump down to verse 21. They became futile in their thinking, and in their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools. Which again is all this science stuff that I've been talking about. All these things of the earth, all these people of the earth, they think they're so smart. No. Romans 1, verse 26. For this reason God gave them up to dishonorable passions. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. Those who practice such things deserve to die. They not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. Tough words, I know, but I don't want to get caught off-handed just because I want to read the fluffy stuff that I like about prosperity and blessings. We have to fight for our blessings, and so I'm just going to end with these few statements. I will just say for myself that I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, or even an agnostic. I see the Bible as being very much alive, the written and the living word. And I just pray that you really take these teachings, what I've presented here, very seriously, as you will be tested on this. In part 1, I talked about the scientific method, which is great when it's done properly. We're actually told to do this in the Bible. In 1 Thessalonians 5:21, the Bible says, prove all things, hold fast that to which is good. So, in my mind, science does prove the Bible if you do the scientific method correctly, without man bias. So I will end with this question. Do you think that what I'm saying is nonsense? If so, what do you think? What's your opinion? Or what are your tested results saying? What have you tested? What have I said that you have tested that is not working for you? Because, I don't know, I believe it proves His Word. So what Walk with Yah teaches is for you to grasp, for you to apply in your situations as Yah's, God's work and Spirit leads, and then test it. I'm trying to show you that spiritual warfare is real, and I triple dog dare you, yes, I went there, to test it out for yourself. Don't take my word on this, but His. I know it'll work for you if you ask, seek, and knock with faith, trust, and the right heart, because guess what? I have to do the same. And, I've studied many other people, deliverance ministers, other people, etc., and learned from them like, hey, I wonder if that will work for me. And it does, many times. And so in doing this, we learn how how God operates as we walk with Yah, as we walk with Him, which is another way of saying that's a Hebrew word for halakha. It's how do you live out His Word? It's living beyond your wildest dreams. Because I see some crazy stuff. I don't share a lot of it because I'm like, these people, they're going to think I'm nuts. And so I challenge you, grab a partner and test what Walk with Yah puts out there. And so that's a big part of the science of Yah as we explore His creation together. Mr. Biz says, came up on my screen that time. Those that are comfortable will now become the comforted. Yes, amen. Yes, we may not get all of our comfort now in this world. The Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. That word meek, I take that to mean that, we will not be rebellious against Him, that we will allow Him to lead us, and in so we'll be doing meek, and so we will inherit the earth. But yes, we will I've heard it said that there is judgment and there is justice, if I'm quoting that correctly. And so in this world, there will be many things that aren't fair, that aren't done right, and that God will have to judge that. And sometimes, if we're close enough to it, we get affected by that also as well, whether positively or negatively. But that God is also a God of justice, and He will repay us. He will recompense us for greatly much more than what we ever suffer in this world. And so, yes, we will be comforted. We will have joy. Again, we're just being tested right now. And so I don't know if anyone has any questions. I really felt that he really wanted me to get this teaching out today. I think this is the longest I've ever gone, but I feel that he was actually, I was up in the middle of the night the other night. He was just putting things in my head, and I was like, okay, let me add that and this. And so I'm just going to ask again that you share this message. Walk with Yah, the Science of Yah, part 3 especially, maybe 1 and 2 also as well. But again, people they're asleep. And I think I want to do another, a Q&A, a smaller Q&A on people that are asleep. What does that mean? And so But there's a lot of them that are asleep at the wheel. Even people that are going to church, pretty complacent, asleep at the wheel. So, I thank you for being here. I don't see any comments. No questions. And so, please share this with other people. Please put your comments, questions, even on other teachings, other stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of Walk with Yah teachings out there. And again, for those that came in later, this Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be starting the From the First to the Third Heavens video cast, starting at 11:30 a.m. I think I said that. And that'll be the Sunday after each live stream. That will be a Zoom teleconference. So I'm looking for participation, people that want to join, ask questions, stuff like that. We'll start off with a Bible study. We'll go over that briefly. We'll talk about some things. And then, maybe we might get into some discussion about what the Bible study was about. Maybe we'll talk about a different topic. Maybe you guys want to bring something up. Maybe we'll get into ministry. Don't know. I just know that Father Yah told me to start this, and so back in July, and I'm finally now clearing the table to get to it. And so if you go to www.walkwithyah.com/calendar, you'll see the schedule out there. And, as well as you can read the legal of statements about, hey, this is going to be live, so it will be sent out to YouTube, maybe Facebook later if I can get that going. Okay. So yeah, I can laugh. All this stuff, no, it's coming. I'm preparing myself. I'm trying to get as many people prepared. I'd like to get a small army going, like, hey, let's battle this stuff in the spirit, because that's where the real battle is. This stuff that we see here in the flesh, that's not really where the real life is at. We see it kind of masked. And so, this is Noe with Walk with Yah Ministry. Thank you for coming. I ask that you pray for me that I may do whatever He calls me to do through Him. Shalom. And just know, maybe your miracle could be next.